Welcome back to AATV. I'm your host Tom Anvil Hibberd, and today we'll be talking all about 3D printing or additive manufacturing for airsoft. "3D printing refers to a variety of processes in which material is deposited, joined or solidified under computer control to create a three-dimensional object, with material being added together, such as plastics, liquids or powder grains, being fused together, typically thin layer by thin layer." Back in the last century, when I was studying product design engineering at Glasgow University, 3D printing was known only as rapid prototyping. It was only really suitable for producing functional or aesthetic prototypes, hence the name. In these more modern times, some 3D printing methods are considered suitable for much larger volumes of production, and in these cases, we use the name additive manufacturing. One of the key advantages of 3D printing is the ability to produce very complex shapes that would be otherwise difficult or impossible to construct by hand, including hollow parts or parts with complex internal structures. A major plus for desktop or hobby users is that you only really need one low-cost printer and a computer in order to produce parts, rather than multiple machine tools and a big workshop. In order to make a 3D print, you either need to download a file from a website like Thingiverse or create one yourself using a CAD program like Fusion 360. Typically, what we think of now as a desktop 3D printer uses a process called Fuse Deposition Modeling, or FDM. This uses a spool or filament made from a thermoplastic material such as PLA, which is heated and then extruded to form the layers of the model. It is the most common 3D printing process used for airsoft accessories, but may not be the best one. There are two main issues with using filament FDM for airsoft. The first is that the surface finish will normally require some type of post-production finishing, like sanding and painting. The printing process will, to one extent or another, leave a small series of lines on the surface like these. Solid shapes are rarely actually printed solid, and this will take considerable amounts of time and material. They are printed as a skin with an internal structure known as infill. You can see it in this failed print here. This can be minimised by careful design and part orientation. The second issue is that this process is not really very suitable for parts beyond a significant load or exposed to the elements. However, by choosing a suitable material and with a careful setup, this can be largely or partially overcome. However, if you want a truly strong part, you will need to use another type of 3D printer like a powder SLS. These machines are not normally financially accessible to the enthusiast, though printing services are available, and there are some airsoft part producers using them like Badas-Design. For the majority of accessories though, desktop FDM machines provide a budget-friendly and fun way of creating parts for airsoft, and we're going to look at several different products today. If you would like me to cover different 3D printing or additive manufacturing techniques, or how to go about it in general, let me know in the comments and I'll produce an episode on it. Airtac are a UK-based company that have produced a range of loading aids, blank firing grenades, blank firing accessories and muzzle devices, amongst some other products. I purchased this Surefire Warden imitation to mount my XT301 tracer unit into. There are also options available for the popular WoSport Spitfire and Airtac Lighter series. This version threads onto the outer barrel like a normal muzzle device and comes in two parts. Once the base is on, you can pop the tracer unit inside and cut this spacer for a snug fit. Luckily in my case, the threads on my TM Mark 18 are long enough that I can also screw the tracer unit on too. Styling replicates the look of the Surefire Warden. In real life, this is a muzzle blast reduction device that uses the same attachment method as the range of suppressors, like this SOCOM 556 replica by Airsoft Artisan. Airtac have done a good job of replicating the look of the mechanism. It does come with a good finish, but this can be improved by the user with some fine abrasives and possibly a paint job. I'll probably be doing that to this one. I would prefer the branding to be smaller and more subtle, however. Overall, I'm really pleased with the Airtac Warden, and it's a great way of disguising a trace unit like the XT301 or Spitfire. I can do this with my bigger suppressors, but they're a lot heavier, and due to their length, there's a greater chance of a BB strike inside the can. Links to Airtac UK are in the description. Next, we have Juno Special Products, who produce PRC 152 style cases for the popular Baofeng UV5R radios. These work well as a pouch filler, and from a few feet away are hard to tell from the real thing. This allows you to use military radio pouches and packs, whilst using a really low cost transceiver like the Baofeng and its massive range of accessories. The radio simply slides into the case with a little bit of care and retains access to the controls and screen of the UV5R. Both the standard and extended batteries can be used with the addition of this insert which slips inside the case. The print has been sanded and painted before it arrives at the customer. There are two versions. I have the standard case. There's also a deluxe case with a top plate that screws into the body of the case. This would alleviate my only real concern with the product, which is the strength of these two horizontal sections. With the top plate in place, they'd be massively reinforced. If you want a relatively low cost PRC 152 style radio to fill a pouch, then take a look at Juno special products. Links again are in the description. Ben, over at English Kiwi Airsoft, produces a range of airsoft safe bayonets, primarily for British and Commonwealth service weapons. I don't have one to hand, but here are some photos of his L1A1 rifle and L85 style bayonets. Great for really adding the finishing touch to a loadout, and remember, they don't like it, up them. Have a look at what English Kiwi has to offer at his Facebook and Instagram pages. Links in the description. Lastly, during the first lockdown, I bought an FDM filament printer myself, and I've been making some products initially for my own use, but I have started selling them too. If you would like any of them, please get in touch and we can work out a price. And if you've got an idea for a project, again, get in touch and we'll have a chat. The first is this Mock Ops suppressor set for retro Colt carbines. It adapts a commonly available commercial can to look like a 90s OpSync sleeve suppressor. It comes in three parts. The first is this collar that slides onto the barrel. The next is this replacement end cap for the suppressor itself. And the third hides the original flash hider inside the suppressor. Once mounted, you can thread the can onto the barrel, much like the original. For short-barreled carbines, like this M733, supply just a collar to bridge the gap between the front sight and the suppressor body. This is an adapter to make an Airsoft Comp M2 red dot look more like an old school Aimpoint 2000 or 5000. It shares the rear clamp to hold it in place. Whilst old Aimpoints are available, I really didn't want to risk having one shot out, so I came up with this really simple idea instead. Lastly, I've made this flash hider to slide over the longer barrel of my M653 replica and turn it into an XM177E2. Inside the 3D printed part is one of these threaded muzzle nuts that are pressed in place so it can screw onto the outer barrel. With a bit of sanding and a spray, I reckon it looks pretty convincing. So thanks for watching this episode of AATV, all about 3D printing, and I've been your host, Tom Anvil Hibberd. If you'd like to learn a bit more about 3D printing, drop me a comment and we'll look at putting a longer episode together for you. If you want to help support AATV, we have a Patreon scheme. There's a link in the description. If you want to make a one-off contribution, head over to our Teespring store to get one of our awesome t-shirts, or even get in touch and buy some of my 3D printed parts. Most importantly, like, subscribe, ding that bell to get notifications whenever we go live. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.